I don't know when it began. Maybe it was a morning when I woke up and felt no interest in anything, or those late nights lying in the dark, realizing I didn't want to keep going, but had no reason to stop. It wasn't clear sadness, nor was it depression. It was a deep kind of weariness, as if something in me had traveled so far, so long, and now only a thin, silent, empty breath remained. I tried to explain this feeling. I studied, read countless books. I dove into existential philosophy, pored over Eastern and Western thought, immersed myself in profound teachings. I read about non-self, emptiness, pure essence. I thought if I understood deeply enough, if I grasped enough theory, I'd escape the haze in my heart. I believed there was a final door that, once opened, would set everything free. But the more I understood, the more confused I became. I started carrying grand concepts in my mind, and naturally I began imposing them on myself. I wondered, who is this thinking? Am I clinging to concepts? Is this delusion or true seeing? Am I living with emptiness? Those questions didn't calm me. They kept me in a state of self-monitoring and doubting myself. It was as if another had formed, more refined, more subtle, hiding under the guise of a spiritual seeker. I grew tired of my own practice, not out of laziness, but because I sensed something inauthentic. I didn't dare share this with anyone, as those around me were striding confidently on their paths. But deep down, I knew I was playing a game, and I'd lost from the start. I wasn't seeking truth anymore. I was chasing a better version of my old self. Then came a moment when I couldn't go on, not because I'd reached a destination, but because I had no drive to pretend anymore. I'd gone far, tried many paths, but in the moment I let go of everything I thought was right, everything I'd tried to hold on to, I suddenly stood still. No goals, no identity, no expectations, no sense of failure, just a real nameless, colorless, tasteless stillness. Yet it was vividly present, and there I knew. I still vividly remember the first times in meditation when my mind settled deeply, strangely. Not the vague calm of before, but a clear, bright stillness. No inner voices, no fragments of thought swirling, just a wakeful state, like water at dawn. I sat there, as if needing nothing more. In that moment, I truly believed I'd crossed into another realm. I thought, maybe this is sudden awakening. After that session, I carried a strange feeling, not ordinary pride, but a quiet inner arrogance. I moved lighter, spoke less, looked at everything as if I'd seen the truth behind the veil of phenomena. I didn't say it aloud, but in my heart, I placed myself in the role of one awakening, as if I were different from the crowd lost in a world of delusion. I began writing my insights in a notebook, using words like emptiness, void, absolute peace, and so on. Then I tried to recapture that state. I timed my meditation like before, adjusted my breath, posture, surroundings, everything, to bring back that dawn water stillness. But the more I tried, the further it slipped away. Meditation became a subtle chase, a refined journey to recreate a feeling I'd once had, like an addict seeking that first high. I didn't realize I was no longer meditating to let go. I was meditating to attain. That desire to attain wasn't about material things, but it was still a craving. For a special feeling, for distinction, for a sign I was on the right path. I wasn't moving for the simplicity of the present, but to affirm a position, a value, even if cloaked in non-self. Trying to maintain a calm mind trapped me in a cycle. When my mind was restless, I felt disappointed. When it was calm, I tried to sustain it. When I couldn't, doubt arose. And with doubt, I meditated to fix it. I spun in a subtle spiritual loop, but full of pressure. I also started enjoying talking about my experiences, not to boast outright, but in a way that sought recognition. I used profound words, metaphors about emptiness, essence, non-self. But deep down, I wanted someone to say, "You've seen it. I needed a witness to something I hadn't truly confirmed with stillness. I was still an I, just an enlightened one this time. Eventually I couldn't bear it anymore. Not because I saw I was wrong, but because I was exhausted from maintaining a version of myself supposedly beyond delusion. I feared I was stagnating, feared others surpassing me. Then I saw I didn't truly want to let go. I wanted achievement. And that achievement wasn't clarity, but a new identity, a subtler, more refined mask, yet still ego. Only then did I begin to see every special state is a trap. Every effort to reach absolute calm was pushing me away from what was quietly present. The truth isn't in special feelings or deep meditative states. From then on, I didn't meditate to attain. I stopped seeing a peaceful state as a good sign or a delusion as an obstacle. I just sat, breathed, saw. If I saw, fine. If I didn't, that was fine too. I began living with the truth without needing to guide it. The truth as it is, without needing my confirmation. No bells rang, no light flashed, no shiver ran down my spine. That moment happened on a very ordinary morning. You could even call it dull. I sat behind the house holding a cold cup of tea. No thoughts in my mind, no tasks to do. Light clouds, familiar sounds of traffic, a few stray bird chirps, everything so utterly mundane. I wasn't meditating or trying to be awake. I just sat, not reaching for anything, not seeking, not thinking, not wanting to understand more. No desires, no practicing, no I being mindful, no I at all. And then, naturally, without anyone guiding, everything was perfectly, strangely complete. Sounds didn't echo in my ears, but passed through an empty space. Light didn't strike my eyes, but soaked into the surroundings. Everything was still unfolding, but there was no center to refer back to. No one seeing, no thing seen, no one in between to gather it into an experience. In that moment of no one, everything became utterly clear without needing light. I couldn't say I was seeing emptiness, because if I saw, there'd be someone seeing. But because no one saw, everything appeared fully as it is. No analysis, no naming, no essence of phenomena, no self or non-self, no awakening or ignorance, just what's present. What made that moment real wasn't its uniqueness, but its inability to be repeated. The moment I wanted to hold it, the moment I thought, this is precious, it vanished. As soon as the mind arose to grasp it, everything dimmed. From a transparent ground, I returned to concepts, memories, familiar mental structures. And I knew it wasn't a state, not something I achieved. It only appears when no one seeks, no one frames, no one analyzes. After that, I stopped trying to return to it. I knew the moment I tried, I'd be far from it. That moment isn't something to recapture. It's not in a time slot, a method, a technique. It's when everything returns to its natural state, when the mind no longer interprets life, no longer centers itself, no longer wants to be anything other than what is. And I understood. Emptiness was never hidden. It's always there, the unblockable ground of every phenomenon. But we don't see it because we're busy naming what appears on that ground. When there's no one to name, no one to understand, to grasp, to hold, that ground shines like a dustless mirror, neither radiant nor colored, yet nothing can obscure it. After that moment, nothing in my life changed in the way people might expect. I didn't become a new person, didn't become endlessly calm or always awake. I still live normally, eat, drink, sometimes snap at loved ones, sometimes forget my own presence in daily tasks. But something shifted quietly, not outwardly visible, a knowing behind every movement of my mind. My mind still stirs, waves of delusion still rise. I still react ignorantly at times. But instead of being fully swept away like before, I feel as if I'm sitting somewhere steady, clear, watching it all unfold without needing to fix it immediately. This knowing doesn't strive, doesn't impose, doesn't interfere. It doesn't try to control or suppress anything. It just knows, and that knowing is vast enough to hold both chaos and calm. I no longer try to hold on to the state I once touched, because I know what's called a state is just a phenomenon, coming and going. Any effort to keep it is just a new form of clinging. When I stopped trying to keep my mind calm, true calm could appear. A calm not from stopping delusions, but from no one opposing them. I saw that the truth doesn't need maintaining. It doesn't depend on whether you're thinking or not, calm or restless. It doesn't come and go like an experience. It's always there as the ground. Because it's always there, this knowing isn't harmed by the mind's fluctuations. The mind can stir with anything, but that ground remains clear, unstained. And I began to understand what it means to live ordinarily, not living as enlightened or awake all the time, but not creating another persona. No need to carry the ideal of liberation like a duty. No need to prove I'm living mindfully. I live like anyone else, but the difference lies beneath a clarity that needs no words. I don't try to act like someone who's seen. There's no urge to teach, share, or prove anything. Sometimes I even forget what I've experienced, but the stillness remains, as if there's a space in me never filled by emotions, memories, or delusions, not because I'm special, but because everything has returned to its natural place. No striving, no adding. This verse didn't arise as a crafted work. I didn't sit to compose or polish each line like a poet. It came like a soft breath after days of no longer wanting to speak. Not because there was nothing to say, but because I saw the most worthy things don't lie in words. When I wrote the first line, I had no idea in mind. I just saw myself letting go, not just of coarse delusions, but of the subtle concepts I'd clung to as truth. Each word appeared not to express, but as if falling from an inner silence. Each line came not from consciousness, but from a place far yet near, a place never named. Not from form, not apart from conditions, neither coming, nor going, nor still. To delusion arises, yet emptiness remains. Where does true mind dwell alone? I once thought to see true mind, I had to cut off all delusions, stop all movement, become utterly still. But after everything, I saw even as delusions arise, emptiness can be seen, not by destroying them, but by ceasing to engage with them. My mind, once wary from trying to be calm, now lets everything come and go. No grasping, no pushing. And I began to see something simple: nothing can stay, so nothing real is lost. Dharma never arises, not a speck, twined, has no form, cannot be grasped. All are but names, briefly placed, drop names, drop thoughts, see true mind. I'd struggled to find the true Dharma, read, studied, collected teachings, tried to define emptiness, essence, nirvana. But when my mind stopped demanding, I saw everything was just concepts layered over what never left me. At some point, I saw this very hearing, if not called, I am hearing, is enough. True mind needs no proof, no form. It has nowhere to go, so no need to return. Not seeing, like one sees a thing, but vast emptiness, no knowing imposed. The moment you seek, it's already lost. In no thought, knowing shines. This was the part I hesitated most to write. I knew if you read it with a mind wanting to understand, you'd miss it. The seeing here isn't subject-object observation, not I see delusions clearly, or I have insight. It's knowing without a knower, clarity without will. Only when the mind stops chasing, stops intending to attain, does this knowing reveal. Not because you achieve it, but because you no longer obscure it. I finished the verse in deep stillness, no sense of accomplishment, no feeling of saying something grand. I just sat for a long while after, thinking nothing, feeling nothing, like after a long rain when only warm earth and soft, damp air remain. I know those reading this verse to understand might find it abstract. Those seeking answers might be disappointed. But if you don't need to understand, if you read as a letting go, allowing things to be undefined, you might, between the lines, touch a stillness, not of words, but of yourself. And if so, I think this verse has fulfilled its purpose. Not to teach, but to fall from the mind like a light leaf, reminding you nothing more is needed. What is enough. I don't think I'm enlightened, nor do I need to claim it. The deeper I go into truth, the clearer I see there's no one to be enlightened, no state of enlightenment to achieve. All the images I'd built of an enlightened being, radiant, unmoved, utterly pure, were just fantasies, idealized by a mind still craving to become. The truth, if it can be called that, needs no one to confirm it. It doesn't become truer because someone sees it, nor less because someone doesn't. It doesn't depend on the seeker, nor belong to the one who sees. It's not in anyone, yet absent from no one. So when someone asks, "Have you awakened?" I don't know how to answer rightly. If I say yes, I've subtly created a persona. If I say no, I've made an entity lacking, needing to attain. In both cases, an hides behind the answer. I no longer care where I am on this path. Not because I don't value the journey, but because I know every comparison of progress, near or far, high or low, exists only when an ego observes it. When there's no observer, everything is just selfless movement, like falling leaves, drifting clouds. No need to progress, no need to become, no need to be perfect, just presence, without interfering. And strangely, when I stopped wanting to find the truth began to reveal itself, not as a final answer, but as an open space where questions no longer matter. Not because I found something, but because there was nothing left to find, no questions to force the world to answer. In that nothingness, I saw nothing was lacking. I share this not to teach a path. I can't. If you're expecting something clear to hold on to, you might be disappointed. But if you're at a place where advice feels redundant, where theories are exhausted, where spiritual efforts no longer bring meaning, then in that exhaustion, you might hear something very still. I don't end with a lesson. I don't want to leave an impression. If anything resonates in you after all this, it's not content, not a viewpoint, but a soft, empty, calm space where you no longer need to understand more. And if you're sitting there, no longer striving, no longer expecting, no longer seeking, you're likely closer to what I can't put into words. Stoic Path community will still be here, not as a teacher, not as a refuge, but as an open space for you to return whenever you want to be no one. And then you might see most clearly. That's when you're truly present. Wishing you enough calm to hear the silence within, enough clarity to not seek light from outside, and enough freedom to let go of all that's unreal you once thought was you.